Hey you guys, what's up? It's Blind Eye coming back at you once again with yet again another story time. And since we are in spooky season October 2022, I figured I'd give you guys another horror themed story. So we got this week and we got next week, and then that's going to be all the horror stories. At least that fits the theme of September, October for Halloween. So we are going to get right into it. I'm saving these last two, ones for this week and next week for last, because these are going to be my favorites. So, these stories kind of are around, they're about the same theme, but this one's going to be the origin of said theme. So anyway, I am blabbing from the title of this particular video. This story time is going to be about my origin, what started my obsession for the best Halloween event, Universal Studios Orlando's Halloween Horror Nights. Now, this goes way back. So I remember we moved from New York, not New York City, upstate New York. We moved from upstate New York to South Florida at the time back in November 2015. So I had no idea what Horror Nights even was. I had no idea that that was even a thing. So at this point, I had, going through life like normally, and I remember we were in down South Florida, then we were in Kissimmee. I've been everywhere. I've been all around the state. And this one particular time, we were living in Kissimmee, and I think I knew some people that were going to Universal, and I was like, "Oh yeah, let's go." I think it was like some mom's friends or something like that. And then I was all hyped up to go, and for some reason, like I didn't wake up in time, or they just they just went without me. So I was kind of bummed out. So I'm like, man, that sucks. But I'm going to go on the Universal website and I'm going to see what I'm missing out on, because I haven't been there for a long time. So I wonder if there's anything new. So I go on the laptop and I go on to the Universal website. And then as I'm looking, like I haven't even gotten through all the rides, I don't think. I was just like on the home page. So I probably didn't end up looking at what I was missing out on. And so this was so this right here happened in like the June probably of 2006. So this year's Horror Nights was like getting in, like it was like getting in full swing or whatever. Wasn't sure what wording I was going to use there, but so I'm looking on the website and there's this there's this little square with like it looked like creepy, and it like had a cake on it, had four faces on it, and it said Halloween Horror Nights Sweet 16. So I'm like, what is that? And so like me being like all into horror and horror movies and making horror movies and stuff like that, I immediately clicked on it. And then oh my god, the memories of this is so cool. Like as soon as I clicked on that link, this is where my whole Horror Nights obsession began. This is where it all started. I clicked on it, and then the Midnight Syndicate music pops up, and then you see each character come up. The caretaker shows up. Your time has come. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Who's that? And then the director pops up, and he says, they say that film was art. I'm like, oh, okay, who's this guy? And then like the storyteller popped up, and she said, once upon a time, and then Jack popped up with a laugh. I was like, and he's like, ha ha ha, not afraid of the dark. I'm like, what? Like like Jack, I immediately gravitated toward because he was a clown, because I didn't know any of the characters, and so I'm like looking through, I'm like figuring out what's what. I'm like, oh, this looks cool, that looks cool, and so I gradually learn about each icon, and uh, I gravitated towards the director because I love making movies. I looked up what he was about, and at the same time, I was like getting into it, so I'm like, wait, so Hollywood, California does a Horror Nights event too, and this guy's there too? So I'm like learning about the director and all this stuff, and I'm like, okay, so we got one here in Orlando, we got one there in Hollywood. It's basically the same person, slightly different backstory, it's just a different name. The one here in Orlando is Paula Ravinsky. The one in Hollywood, California is Pavel Pranevsky. And I gravitated towards that one first because of this upcoming moment right here that I'm about to talk about. So this was all back in the MySpace days. I don't know if a lot of you remember MySpace, but man, MySpace was the best back then. And so they had like their MySpace page themed to that year's event over in Hollywood. And I was like, I want to see if they'll respond back, if it's supposed to be this guy as the director for the Hollywood page, like the actual Hollywood page, as Pavel Pranevsky. So I'm like, I was like, I'm gonna message this dude. So I was like, hey, what did I say? I'm trying to remember. I think I said something along the lines. Oh yeah, I said your work reminds me of a film called Hostel, but your work is far more better, far more gory, and all this cool stuff. And then I was like, okay, that was cool. I did not expect to get a response. So like within like the next day or two, or maybe that same day, I don't remember. I actually got a response from that page, from the MySpace page, from the actual Halloween Horror Nights Hollywood actual page. And it was like they were totally in character and they were like, Hostel does not compare to the masterpiece that I have planned. Thank you for the praise. It will not go unrewarded. And ever since that moment, I was like totally like, the director is like the coolest character. I was like, holy crap, this is awesome. And so now here we are. I've made like many fan films on the character and I cosplay as him and it's awesome. It's fun. I have like 30, about 30 vintage old school cameras. And out of those 30 cameras, I have every single camera that the character has ever used at Horror Nights. Every single time he comes back, I'm always looking to see what camera he's got to make sure, one, if I have it, or two, if I don't have it, I'm going to get it. And that's the case every time he comes back. So that's how the origin of my horror night, for my love of horror night, started. And I've gone every year since. Ever since 2006, I have gone. I have not missed a year except COVID because that was just out of everybody's control there. So, but I don't really count that. So technically, I've still gone every single year. I've got my streak going. And we're going to get into um, more director talk with next week's story time. Hint, hint as to what that could be next week. But yeah. And so, like, the caretaker, he's cool. Storyteller, I was kind of like, eh. But then the usher came out, and I'm like, okay, the usher's cool. The usher's awesome because I was working at a movie theater at the time, so I'm like, okay, that's badass. And then you got Fear, Eddie. Oh my god, yo, I really hope that Eddie gets his own year one time, man, because Eddie deserves it. As much shit as him and Jack, went through back in the day. Although last year they kind of like made up and put it past each other, like they put it past him, they put it behind him, whatever the phrase is, like water under the bridge, like brothers don't shake, we hug. So I guess they're cool now because I always thought like 25 was going to be like there was like this big rumor that at the last Jack show at Horror Nights 2015 25 is that during the last Jack show on the last night Eddie was going to show up and like either kill Jack or do something and take over, and it was going to be a cliffhanger for the next year for 26, which that didn't happen, which sucks because that would have been awesome. I mean, Chance is cool, and I know why they did it because Suicide Squad was coming out with Harley and Joker and all that stuff, so they wanted to bank on that obviously, and plus everyone's like, oh, it's Harley Quinn, and I would be like, nah, kinda, but it's not. It's like Harley Quinn of horror, as Jack says, Chance. But yeah, I love Horror Nights. And I love the director character. It's such a cool character. But we're going to get more into that next week because next week it's going to be an awesome story and I don't want to spoil it here. But that's pretty much how my origin began with Horror Nights and the director. And I've made fan films. I still do. Kind of, I'm doing more of my own original stuff now. But you never know. You never know when I'm gonna do a another director film one day, another director fan film. I have done also HR Blood and Guts, who's like it's a tie between like director's my number one favorite character. That's just how it is. And it's a tie between two and three. It's a tie between HR Blood and Guts and Eddie, or Eddie and HR Blood and Guts. It's always changing. It always changes every time. So those are my top three, and they were there for Horror Nights 30, which I'll get into the next week's story time. I'm going to save that one for last because that was like the coolest thing that's ever happened in all my years ago in Horror Nights. So yeah, that's it for this week's story time. My origin of my obsession of Horror Nights and the director and all that cool stuff. Thank you all so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed the content, please check out my other story time videos. I have a playlist on them. Go check out all my movies that I have on YouTube. I have a bunch of fan film stuff on the director and HR Blood and Guts, and I'm working on some Jonathan Crane Scarecrow stuff, and because he's my favorite Batman villain from DC Comics. As far as like doing fan film stuff, I got those characters. Maybe a Negan thing. I've got a Negan idea, but I don't know if I'm going to do it or not. We'll see. And then I have a bunch of original stuff, which is where my main focus is right now, such as Lunatic and Lunatic 2. I am working on Lunatic 3 right now, and keep an eye on the channel because there might be something Lunatic 3 related coming soon. So keep an eye out for that. And I've also got the narrator, an anthology series. It is, as I just said, an anthology series where each episode is different, and the narrator is like the host of the series. And I've got episode 1, The Closet Creatures, that's out, and episode 2, The Abductors, that's out. Giving narrator a little bit of a break because I'm going to be like going hard, focusing on the third Lunatic film, the final Lunatic film. So that's where my focus is going to be going as far as movie stuff. But yeah, there's all that stuff, so go check all that out. There's playlists for everything. There's playlists for Lunatic and the narrator series and all that stuff. And I've also got a bunch of video game content up on the channel as well. A bunch of highlights, compilations just from random funny stuff that happens or cool stuff that happens and whatnot. And of course, all my music stuff. I have a bunch of music stuff up, but I don't have them as public because I want to be able to like let people like buy them like on Apple and stuff because I make all this cool music on GarageBand on my iPad Pro, and I also write my own music for all my movie stuff that I do. So that's cool because with YouTube now they're a bit more strict with copyrighted material. So I try to do as best I can to do my original stuff for everything that I do now, which is cool. It forces me to be more creative, which I like. A little bit harder at times, but you know it is what it is. But yeah, I got a bunch of movie stuff, video game stuff, music stuff. If you want to follow me, you can go ahead and follow me on all social media. It's Blind Eye Official, and yeah, that's this week's story time for you. Can't wait for next week's story time. That's going to be the best one out of all of them that I've had like planned out. So get ready for next week because it's the finale of the horror stories. At least for now, I might throw some random horror ones out there throughout the year. You never know. But I think that's it, you guys. So thank you all so much for watching. Stay tuned to the channel for more story times and maybe a little something from Lunatic 3. You never know. But yeah, that's it. I want to thank you all so much for watching. Hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you all for the next story time coming next week. And yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching.